my favorite like memory is when my birthday party, when we had the pool party and Leo set up the screen and our gay asses were like, what are we going to watch? Let's watch a Lady Gaga concert.
Happy Pride, bitches.
Welcome to the Siren Songbook, a podcast where we discuss female artists, their music, their history, and the impact they've made on the music industry. Join us each month as we pick a new inspirational artist and celebrate exactly what it is that makes them so magical. All right, everyone. Well, welcome to episode 6 of the Siren Songbook. I am Amy.
I'm Kasey.
And today we are talking Lady Gaga.
Mm-hmm.
It's Pride Month, and I know that there's a lot of gay icon artists that we could talk about. But I feel like she is a big gay icon just in general, and a big advocate, and she is queer herself.
Yes, she is.
Which I don't think any of us were surprised when she came out.
Yeah.
The signs were always there.
Yeah. I feel like I have a pretty good gaydar. So that was something I thought from the beginning. I think what's really, like you touch on a lot of gay icons now, I think a lot of like, you know, with like Chappell Roan or Renee Rapp, just two of my favorite artists currently, both both women who love women. I'm not going to assume that they are one indefinite thing. Billie Eilish just came out recently. A lot of these women wouldn't have been given the space to, or they would have had a lot more scrutiny. Wow. It's one of those days where if it were not for Lady Gaga, I think when she first came out, I mean, the things people said about her, I was in middle school and I remember she's got a penis and she's got this and there's that and you know, all the sexual stuff and the scrutiny that she just endured and just absorbed and threw back at people, not in like a mean-spirited way, but just kind of, I'm going to show you kind of way is, I mean, I think really what paved the way for a lot of these artists to be able to be so themselves today.
Yeah. Well, even in the Monster Ball, like I was laughing because she was like, at one point she's just like, my dick is so huge. Like,
dude,
she just took that, like she took the weight of all that hate on her shoulders for the community, and then was just like, babies, you be yourself.
Yes. There was an interview from her when like she relatively first kind of hit the scene with Anderson Cooper that's like relatively popular to this day. You can find it online, where Anderson Cooper's talking about how this rumor that you might have a penis, and she's like, and what if I do? Yeah. And so what? And he's like, well, and she's like, yeah, and what? Like, would that be such a bad thing? I'm not really sure. I don't really get what this is all about.
Your point is.
Yeah. Okay, next question, bitch. Like, iconic behavior from the very start. Something I very much appreciate. Something it feels like she's been a part of my life for almost all of it. So we love ourselves some Lady Gaga.
We do, and I'm very excited for this episode.
Yes. So just to dive right in on a little bit of her early life, some of her backstory for nobody that's listening to this who have not heard of her. I'm sure everyone has. She was born Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanata on March 28th, 1986. So that would make her an Aries. At Lenox Hill Hospital in Manhattan, New York City, to an upper middle class Catholic family. Both of her parents have Italian ancestry. Her parents are Cynthia, a philanthropist and business executive, and an internet entrepreneur, and her dad, Joseph Germanata. She has a younger sister, and she was brought up on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Gaga said in an interview that her parents came from lower class families and worked hard for everything. And they instilled that hard work and work ethic into her. And you can see that in the career that she has built for herself. From age 11, she attended the Covenant of the Sacred Heart, a private all-girls Roman Catholic school. And Gaga has described her high school self as, quote, very dedicated, very studious, very disciplined, but also a bit insecure. She considered herself a misfit and was mocked for being either too provocative or too eccentric. But then Gaga began playing piano She started at the age of 4 when her mother insisted that she become a, quote, cultured young woman. She took piano lessons and practiced through her childhood, and the lessons taught her to create music by ear, which Gaga preferred over reading sheet music. Her parents encouraged her to pursue music and enrolled her in a creative arts CAM, which is like an actual like camp and like school in Manhattan. As a teenager, she played at open mic nights, and in 2003, at the age of 17, Gaga gained early admission to Collaborative Arts Project 21, which is a music school at the New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. She lived in NYU's dorms, and that's where she began to like meet a lot of her creative partners and like really kind of like explore herself artistically. She studied music there and improved her songwriting skills by writing essays on art, religion, social issues, and politics, including a thesis on pop artists Spencer Tunick and Damien Hirst. In 2005, Gaga withdrew from school during the second semester of her second year to focus on her music career. And so the start of her music career really begins between 2005 and 2007. She formed a band called the SG Band with some of her friends at NYU, and they played gigs around New York and became a fixture of the downtown Lower East Side club scene. After the 2006 Songwriter Hall of Fame New Songwriter Showcase at the Culture Room in June, talent scout Wendy Starland recommended her to music producer Rob Fusari, and Fusari collaborated with Gaga, who traveled daily to New Jersey, helping to develop her songs and compose new material. The producers said that they began dating in May of 2006 and claimed to have been the first person to call her Lady Gaga, which was derived from Queen's song Radio Gaga. The relationship lasted until January of 2007. And I don't know for sure if that's 100% true, that a man, again, would take credit for the development of an artist. So I take that with a grain of salt.
She talks about how she picked the name because of Queen's Radio Gaga.
I kept that in only because I've only heard her say that she picked that name. So, or her friends would call her that and stuff too. I've never heard of this man. So, you know.
Yeah. It seems very much like he's stepping in. And also it just feels right to me that she picked that name. Mm-hmm. Other than the fact that she said she did. Mm-hmm. But because Freddie Mercury, like the parallels between them, I'm a huge Freddie Mercury fan. I love Freddie Mercury. He is my idol. The parallels between them, between like Freddie was gay and a gay icon. And especially back then, like there was not much of that. Mm-hmm. Very flamboyant, very unafraid. And also his music was like the mixture between theater and pop and rock. Mm-hmm. And that's Gaga. We'll talk about it more later, but she's very a mixture between her theater and her pop, and has created this like scene for queer people.
Yes.
So I feel like the fact that she derived that from Radio Gaga by Queen makes sense.
I wasn't there, so I can't say for certain, but I don't usually believe men, and that you can keep on record. Fusari and Gaga established a company called Team Lovechild LLC to promote her career, and they recorded and produced electropop tracks, sending them to the music industry executives. Joshua Sarabin, the head of A&R at Def Jam Records, responded positively, and after approval from Sarabin's boss, L.A. Reid, Gaga was signed to Def Jam in September of 2006. But she was dropped from the label 3 months later and returned home to her family for Christmas, which they definitely are regretting that decision. During this time, she met performance artist Lady Starlight, who helped mold her onstage persona. The pair began performing at downtown club venues like the Mercury Lounge, the Bitter End, and the Rockwood Music Hall. Their live performance art pieces, known as Lady Gaga and the Starlight Review, and billed as the ultimate pop burlesque show, was a tribute to 1970s variety acts, which I believe is actually where the name really originated from. They performed at a 2007 Lollapalooza Music Festival event, and that footage recently has resurfaced online, and you can find that. And it's really interesting to watch someone with the star power that Lady Gaga has performing some songs that we do know end up becoming a part of the fame. And there's like maybe like 30 people in the audience, and some people are jamming and some people are like, what the hell's going on? But like knowing, like, it's one of those moments where you're like, wow, like these people have no idea that they're watching Lady Gaga right now.
I've watched that performance so many times too, like her with her brown hair performing in a bar, and like people not realizing what they're watching. I remember it was a big thing that went around too, because they were like, so many people, of course, because it was like electronic dance music that she came out with originally. A lot of people were like, oh, she can really sing. And I was like, duh.
No shit. Yeah. She could really sing when she recorded those fucking songs. Yeah. People are so dense. It's crazy.
But I specifically remember that in that video going around, like, oh, look, it's Lady Gaga and she can sing and she's not weird and she's not. And I'm like,
specifically, I think that like turning point moment was when she performed that song from The Sound of Music at the Oscars, and people were like, oh wow, she like doesn't.
Yeah, my grandma was like, have you heard of this Lady Gaga person?
Oh my god. That was definitely a turning point in people like taking her quote unquote more seriously, but the real ones knew from the beginning that she was a superstar in the making. Having initially focused on avant-garde electronic dance music, Gaga began to incorporate pop melodies and the glam rock style of David Bowie and Queen into her songs. While Gaga and Starlight were performing, Fusari continued to develop the songs he had created with her, sending them to a producer and record executive Vince Herbert. In 2007, Herbert signed Gaga to his label Streamline Records, an imprint of Interscope, which was established like that month.
Yeah.
And Gaga later credited Herbert as the man who discovered her. Having served as an apprentice songwriter during an internship at Famous Music Publishing, Gaga struck a music publishing deal with Sony ATV, and as a result, she was hired to write songs for Britney Spears, New Kids on the Block, Fergie, and the Pussycat Dolls. At Interscope, musician Akon was impressed with her singing abilities when she sang a reference vocal for one of his tracks in the studio, and Akon convinced Jimmy Iovine, chairman and CEO of Interscope Geffen A&M Records, which is a brother company of Def Jam, to form a joint deal by having Gaga also sign with him and his own label, Con Live, making her his, quote, franchise player. In later 2007, Gaga met with songwriter and producer Red One, and she collaborated with him in the recording studio for a week on her debut album, signing with Cherry Tree Records, an Interscope imprint established by producer and songwriter Martin Kazerbenbaum. That's a big name. I'm so sorry. She also wrote 4 songs with him, and despite securing a record deal, she said that some radio stations found her music, quote, too racy, dance-oriented, and underground for mainstream market. To which she replied, "My name is Lady Gaga. I've been in the music scene for years, and I'm telling you, this is what's next." And she was correct.
She was. I remember Just Dance coming out, and then I remember the game Just Dance coming out.
Gosh. Yes.
And that was the one I danced to every time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure if that's where I learned of the song Just Dance. It might have been.
Oh, I'm not
where
sure.
I heard it for the first time.
That's one of those moments where like I can't say like I remember exactly where I was when Just Dance came out, but I remember like this is back in the days when I wasn't necessarily allowed to listen to commercial music, but my mom was warming up to the idea, and I'd sneak downstairs like early in the morning and like sit as close as I could to the TV to like watch VH1's Top 20 Video Countdown. And I remember the music video so vividly, like I could recreate it like shot for shot. I remember being like, what is this? Who is this? I'm in love with this. Her blonde hair is so beautiful. How did she make it into a bow? Not really understanding what a wig was when I was like 11. But like just being so in awe of this person and this.
She was larger than life. Yeah. And I think that both brought in a lot of people and scared a lot of people.
Yeah.
And she also, they talk about like she took from like the glam rock scene and everything, but also like I feel like she took from the drag scene a lot too.
Yes.
Like especially because she was performing in a burlesque style show.
Yeah.
And burlesque and drag cross over a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, I can't say for sure, but I feel like a lot of her inspiration came from that, from her makeup to her wigs to her clothing. Like there's a mixture in there.
Yeah.
And even as she gets, bigger, you can definitely see that in the Monster Ball. I was like watching it and I was like, this is drag. This is drag. And that's probably why a lot of people just automatically were like, you're trans.
Oh my gosh.
Because people don't understand that you can be a drag queen and not be trans, but just ignorance.
Yeah. Very much so.
They saw that and they're like, that looks like a drag queen.
It's almost like it was some rumor that was started to discredit the superstar that she already was out the gate. I think that's something that we talked about prior to the podcast was some people just like have the vision before they even start. And she was ready for that call. She, had been basically performing her entire life. And through those burlesque shows and those underground shows and stuff, like she had created this character that like by the time she was signed, she was ready to go, which is not something that you see very often, especially at that time frame. Like I think they were phasing out of these big budget deals where they had developmental deals for people where they'd find who they were as a signed artist and then the label would push them out. She didn't need any of that. She already knew who she was. I'm Lady Gaga, bitch. Like, get out of my way.
She went to theater school. So like that also plays into her creating this stage persona, this character that is very theatrical. Mm-hmm. And even I keep bringing up the Monster Ball because that's just my favorite. Period. But she was talking in the Monster Ball about how she went to theater school and they told her like your voice is too pop when you sing theater and to theater when you sing pop. And they told her you're too ethnic and your hair is brown and you're never going to be a star. You'll be the weird funny character on the side. And her response was, well, what about Liza?
Yeah, 100%. And now look at fucking Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
I mean, she's an Oscar nominated actress.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Not just musically, she was nominated for Best Actress.
Yeah.
So
because she starred in a movie, in TV shows.
Yep.
And I watched her American Horror Story stuff. And actually, I really enjoyed it.
I am a little bitch. I'm so scared of stuff, and I did not watch it in preparation for this. I didn't watch it when it came out. I wanted to. I was like, Lady Gaga, she can act, which I knew, of course, she could. But I was like, I want to see it. And then I watched the beginning of the first episode, and I was like, I can't do it. I'm sorry.
I started with Roanoke Nightmare, and that one was terrifying.
Oh,
but she was only in one episode for that one. But that one was terrifying. Hotel, not so terrifying. More gory than anything. But she did a really good job in it. And it's not like Kim Kardashian who's coming out now and starring in it and people are like, why is she in it? No, Lady Gaga went to theater school. She learned about acting. She loves acting. And so it's very much deserved for her to play a part like that.
Yeah. 100%.
I think, very, very excited that she proved them all wrong. In very different hair colors too. She wasn't just blonde.
I always think back to that, like in this early life stage, like she's talked about this, like her high school made like a Facebook group called Stephanie Germanotta You'll Never Be Famous. And wow, was that fucking wrong? And also like horrific. Why would people do that? That's so...
Because people are mean.
People are mean and people are very jealous of driven individuals. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this too, but like people in general, it's not just high schoolers. When you have something going for you and you're passionate about something, for some reason, I think people are really insecure. And so they're going to tear it down because they're like, well, that's fashionably uncool. It's very uncool to not, or to like be into anything like blah, 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 or to try so hard, but good Lord. Yeah. And that's why you're where you guys are. And that's where she is.
Yeah. And so she went off to be a major star. And we will talk about that. But first, this is our first episode as part of the Bass Blown Entertainment podcast lineup. And so we are going to jump to a commercial break from one of our co-podcasts.
Yeah.
Do, do, do.
Welcome to Know Your Rights, a music podcast from two guys who know just enough about songwriting to start a podcast about.
Follow Rob
And Colton.
as each week we dive into a different band or songwriter and discuss what makes them great, okay,
Or otherwise.
music is law.
And we know our rights.
Streaming bi-monthly wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Know Your Rights, a Basebone Entertainment podcast.
Nailed it.
All right. So we're back and we're going to start talking about her life now that she has signed.
We're talking about The Fame and the Fame Monster. Yes, out the gate, best album. I'm just gonna call it right now. It is my favorite album.
It is mine too.
I often tend to appreciate the thing the most that I discovered first, but
Well, also when I listened to it, I was just like, I know every single song on this album.
every lyric to every song, I know it in my bones, dude.
And
they
were all popular. Like even if they were popular later, they were all popular.
100%.
There's not a miss on that album.
No. It says by 2008, Gaga had relocated to Los Angeles to work extensively with her record label to complete her debut album, The Fame, and to set up her own creative team called House of Gaga, modeled after Andy Warhol's The Factory. The Fame was released on August 19th, 2008, and reached #1 in Austria, Canada, Germany, Ireland, Switzerland, and the UK, as well as the top 5 in Australia and the United States. The first two singles, Just Dance and Poker Face, reached #1 in the United States, Australia, Canada, and the UK. The latter was also the world's best-selling single of 2009, with 9.8 million copies sold that year, and spent a record 83 weeks on Billboard magazine's digital songs chart. The other three singles, AA, Nothing Else I Can Say, Love Game, and Paparazzi, were released from the album, the latter most reaching #1 in Germany. And Paparazzi has been a slow burn hit. I feel like everyone loves the song. It will always be famous. I love Paparazzi so much. When Glee did it, oh my God.
I remember so many Gaga songs on Glee. My favorite was when they did Poker Face, and it was it was Idina Menzel and
yes,
Leah
and
Michele.
Yeah, I almost said just Rachel Berry, who's a
Rachel
real
Berry.
person in my head, I guess. Oh my gosh. Dude, okay, so at the 52nd Annual Grammy Awards, The Fame and Poker Face won Best Dance Electronica Album and Best Dance Recording, respectively. And while traveling the globe, she wrote 8 songs for The Fame Monster, a reissue of The Fame. Those new songs were also released as a standalone EP on November 18th, 2009. The first single, Bad Romance, was released 1 month earlier and went #1 in Canada and the UK and #2 in the US, Australia, and New Zealand, which is nuts. And I remember during the first album cycle, before she even released this EP, I was so enamored with this woman because every time she performed a song, it never sounded the same twice. Like
No.
the artistry, the way that like the first time I heard her perform Poker Face, it was like, and this video is also still available online somewhere, but she's playing it at a radio station. It's just her and her keyboard, and she does this beautiful like ballad rendition of the song. And I was like, oh my God. And oh my God. Also, okay. Can we please talk about her performance of Paparazzi at the MTV Music Video Awards?
Yeah.
I still watch that over and
it's
over
so
and over
good.
again. It's so unbelievable. That time period was just so well thought out. I was always like, what is she gonna wear next? How is she gonna sing this song? Like she had us by the balls, dude.
Okay,
Oh my
and that's the
God.
thing that I was going to talk about with Gaga is that, yes, her music is great. Her music, catapulted her. The Fame, there wasn't a miss on it. Like,
No.
I know every single song from that, whether I know that I know it or not. But she also, the branding of Lady Gaga is one of the best branding ever, maybe?
I think, I think the sign of a superstar is when you can identify them based on like a signature look or a signature hairstyle, like the outline of the person, you know exactly who it is. And when I think about like that first iteration of Lady Gaga at the beginning, obviously it's that platinum blonde hair that's like no brass inside.
Yeah.
No brass inside. I mean, like, that blonde hair, or it's she had those, what are they, those big thick glasses that were like, they had like mirror like disco stuff on them,
and they're like almost triangular.
Yes.
And they
like
those are the Lady Gaga glasses.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
You know, the crazy hats and stuff that she wears that are just like avant-garde.
Yeah, it's like almost a disco ball is coming out of her body. It's like this dance music is like a part of her actual anatomical self.
Being.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you add the choreography, which I was looking up earlier. Her choreographer's name is Richie Jackson. And I remember specifically watching So You Think You Can Dance. And they had him on. And they created this modern dance, but it was Lady Gaga, the claw.
Oh my gosh.
Like you just see that claw, and it's almost like you know, when people do the Thriller move.
Yeah.
But when there's the Lady Gaga claw, and somebody does it, and you're like, Lady Gaga. You know, the branding is ridiculous.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I mean, like, the only other artist that you can, like, pinpoint at this time period that's doing that same thing is Beyonce. Because what's the, like, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. You're just doing that, like, hand motion thing, and everyone knows that's Beyonce. And so, like, the only, like, of her peers that was at that level at the time, again, Beyonce, who... within the Fame Monster instantly recognized Lady Gaga as a real talent, was like, hey, I think we should collaborate. And then they made one of the coolest songs of all time that I'm still waiting for a part 2 of.
Did you hear that there's rumors that the part 2 is coming out?
Yes. I gotta be honest, and I think I might have said this during the Beyonce episode, but during the Super Bowl commercial, when they were like, oh, like, and it's the very like teaser for Texas Hold'em, but they're like driving through the desert, I was like, my first thought was, oh my god, Telephone Part 2. I didn't even think about a new Beyonce album. I was like, Telephone!
Apparently it is in the works. I mean, we'll see if that's just internet rumors or not, but I'm ready.
I've been ready. I've been ready forever, dude.
But yeah, it's like she has this branding, she has this dance. And then what I found was really interesting, and I didn't get to dive too much into this, but there is something that is specifically called Gaga choreography. And it's a form of modern dance that is for non-dancers that people can like join in on. And it's like an expression and a extension of the body more than a dance. And I was like, that sounds like what her dancing is.
Yeah.
I don't know if it got the name Gaga choreography or if it's just a real strange coincidence. I found that really interesting that it was like that. And also the claw and everything. I remember an interview where she said, I watched Radio Gaga at the Live Aids concert, and she wanted something that people could participate in. Like, you know, like everybody knew the dance move to that.
Yeah.
Everybody knew to clap, how to move their arms, how to move their hands. And she wanted something like that brought the audience into the performance with her. And I think she does that well.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I remember sitting there, like, specifically, I think, like, when I started to realize that, like, the claws became like a more of a signature move for her was in the Bad Romance video, and I watched that like over and over and over again, and like I like remember like sitting in front of my TV and just like trying to figure it out, or like in the, you know, back in the day when everyone had a computer room in their house.
Yes.
Being in the computer room with my sister, and we're trying to like figure out the choreography for it. Oh my gosh. But like even like some of the looks, like I want to say it was AA, nothing else I can say. That music video, she looked so like she didn't have like all of the like the frills and the extra stuff that was in some of the other music videos that we saw. Like obviously Poker Face came out first, Just Dance came out first, like those all those songs, and then just in Everything Stripped Away in AA, and she's still fucking drop dead gorgeous. Unbelievable. I was like, oh my god, I didn't know people could look like that. Holy fuck, I make them that like that. Damn.
And that's
like,
the crazy thing, is that like people thought she was so ugly and manly looking, and I'm just like, how?
Dude, I don't know where. I mean, again, I think it definitely comes from like people not wanting women to be so successful. It is some weird like thing, this like phenomenon in society that I think people are finally starting to talk more about, that I've recognized for a long time, and I didn't really know how to put it into words, that like after a while, or like if someone comes out the gate swinging, people are looking for reasons to hate you or looking for reasons to tear you down. And so like especially in the especially in the 2000s, that whole like decade of people just really zeroing in on people's looks and really tearing people down. And it's so unfortunate and disheartening, and my heart breaks for, I don't know what kind of thought process Lady Gaga on the inside was feeling, but I know that if I was her, like as much as I'd like put on a face, like that would get to me.
Well, that's
like,
even in her when she did the Super Bowl, people were talking about how, oh, did you see her belly? And I'm like, because she had
belly?
a role,
dude. And and not even like an actual role. Like
yeah.
I got roles. That was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know it.
People live under that type of criticism all the time. Just like the fact that I watched her documentary, and it does get to her, and she does have a lot of anxiety about, you know, how she leaves and everything and whatnot. But yeah, just to have that kind of anxiety looming over you all the time. And so, of course, she had to make a bigger than life character.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like a block to a shield.
Yeah. The character of Lady Gaga is, you know, like, yeah, that protection, that like that shell that she needed. And I mean, like, that character, Lady Gaga, but also the person, Stephanie, is so talented that it is really heartbreaking that like people could be so cruel. But you know, at the same time, like she's doing so well for herself that shit has got to fly off just a little bit. I mean, like going back to the Fame Monster EP, which, oh my god, I remember when that came out. Oh my god, I remember when that came out. Oh my god, so Telephone came out. We talked about that fucking unbelievable song. I remember
and that music video too.
Dude, I wish that I could be one of those people that said I was there before they like took the music video down off of YouTube and put like a cleaner version up. I didn't get to watch the original supposedly raunchy version that I'm sure if I saw now I'd be like, that was it. Okay.
That's all. You thought that was too dirty.
Yeah, jeez. Wait until we get it became Gaga's 4th UK #1. Its 3rd single, Alejandro, don't call my name, don't call my name, Alejandro, which reached #1 in Finland and attracted controversy. The music video did, because it was deemed blasphemous by the Catholic Church, which is hilarious, knowing that she went to an all-girls Catholic school for such a long time. That tie to religion definitely came out in the music video. I remember when I watched it and everybody was like, I cannot believe how scandalous this was. And I was like, what about it is?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Other than the fact that she's wearing an outfit that you don't like, singing around a mission. Was it around a mission?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember 100%, but I remember it coming out. I remember the scandal. And I remember like thinking, like, even in a lot of her songs she mentions Jesus, God, and she's still very religious in some ways.
I didn't even know that.
Not
Well, it's just more of like for me, like I grew up extremely religious, and although I'm no longer a believer and I don't go to church or anything, like religious like iconography and like phrasing and all that kind of stuff makes its way back into my art still, because it was something I was like born into. Yeah. And was such a prevalent part of my life for such a long time in my life that it just can't not be a part of it. Yeah. In some way, you know?
And I think she still like has some sort of belief in that stuff, but not in the way that the church, as so many of us are now. Yeah. We're deconstructing what we learned in the church, but still finding spirituality.
100%. I mean, like, especially because for such a long, I mean, still to this day, you know, a lot of us discovered ourselves while listening to Lady Gaga. She gave us that opportunity and that space to do so. And like, as someone who was religious, like I pulled away from the church over time, even though it's still such a part of my art, because I was not accepted for my beliefs. And it was around this time in middle school where like I started to like really like deconstruct like my, like I've talked about this in earlier episodes where like as a kid, like I remember telling my mom that I had a crush on a girl and my mom being like, no, we don't have crushes on women. We don't have crushes on girls. Those are your friends. You just really like them as a friend.
Yeah.
And like being in middle school and being like up all night and thinking, oh my God, I don't think that I just like, I don't know. I'm so confused because like, is this how I'm supposed to like a friend? Because I think about them all the time. Like that doesn't seem right. And like being like sick over that.
Mm-hmm.
And like Gaga felt like a safe place to feel that way. Like the fact that she went out the gate and she was like for gay rights and she let all that stuff like get to the back of her head. And she, I think from the beginning, like, you know, I think about the Love Game video. There's like a part where she's like making out with a cop in like a booth.
Yeah.
And it, I think at one point is a woman that she's making out with. I'm not 100% sure. But I remember at the time thinking that it was. And I was like, oh my God, it's okay to do that. Like that was so important for me as a child to see, you know, without letting my parents know that I saw that.
Don't tell him.
Yeah. Don't tell him now. Like, I don't want to get grounded. Both tracks, Alejandro and Telephone, reached the top 5 in the US, and the video for Bad Romance became the most watched on YouTube in April of 2010. And that October, Gaga became the first person with more than 1 billion views combined. Like, that's another one of those music videos that I've seen so many times. All that white, those clam shoes, which going back to the fashion sense, like I saw that shoe and I knew it was Lady Gaga. Like who else was walking in those? I didn't know anybody could walk in them because they look like the
other than drag queens.
Yeah.
Other than drag queens, it was Lady Gaga.
Mm-hmm. And that was so important. Like when, you think about, she like emerges from that tub and she like kicks her foot out of the water and there's the clam shoe that like became something that she wore like all the time when she was promoting that whole like time frame of like shows and stuff. At the 2010 MTV Video Music Awards, she won 8 awards out of 13 nominations, including Video of the Year for Bad Romance. And she was the most nominated artist for a single year and the first woman to receive 2 nominations for Video of the Year at the same ceremony, which is absolutely insane. And I don't remember if this is the exact ceremony where she came in the meat dress.
It is. 2010 is where she came in the meat dress. And I took notes on certain, there's so much fashion, like you just talked about, the clam shoe, the hats, I had to like pick some, but the meat dress is just like the one that everybody remembers.
Talks about.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm sorry, 14 years ago when we're still actively discussing the meat dress.
Like that is when, and whether it was like because I remember I feel like that was a turning point for her. Like already she's winning all these awards and everything, but now Lady Gaga is on everybody's lips.
Oh, yes.
Everybody is talking about Lady Gaga. PETA's pissed at her.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Fox News just like freaking out.
Ugh, yeah.
About like this transgender wearing this meat dress and what does it mean?
And our kids, they're fucking...
and how inappropriate that she's wearing a meat dress even though the meat dress was covering everything. And so her meat dress was actual meat. It was like slices of like very thin steak, like almost like skirt steak. They spent $6,000 to have it taxidermied and saved for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and now it's at the Gaga Museum.
Jeez. I didn't know you could taxidermy meat that was already cut out of an animal.
Yeah,
that is something I learned just now.
Apparently some of it was still like not okay, so like it doesn't have all the original meat pieces on it, but they preserved it to save in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Jeez.
And now it's at her, I forget what it's called, but it's like because she has that residency in Vegas.
Oh,
right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
And they have all her costumes out there. A lot of people were speculating why she did it, if it was a statement on feminism and fashion. Some even, I do remember Fox News was like, after they got over their shock, was like, oh, maybe she's on our side and she's against vegans.
Oh my God.
Because only real Americans eat beef.
All right. Okay, Fox News.
But
sure, Grandpa.
Yeah, okay, Grandpa, chill out. Which is, I even put in my notes, which is one of the dumber opinions, I think. But she said that she did it as a protest against the don't ask, don't tell policy. And her quote is, if we don't stand up for what we believe in, if we don't fight for our rights, pretty soon we're going to have as much rights as the meat on our bones. A week later, she appeared at a gay rally calling for the repeal of the policy and gave an address entitled The Prime Rib of America.
Nice.
The law was formally repealed 3 months later.
Yeah, that's right. Woo! We could do literally a whole podcast episode on her fashion and her fashion statements and the political statements she makes with her fashion. I absolutely love that. That is something I have always loved about being able to dress and to dress myself. And as someone who is now occupies a plus size body, like the options in order to be in a more to make more statements is not as available as it used to be for myself, which is sad. But like aside from that, there's just so much freedom in fashion and like the things that you're allowed to say and the way you're allowed to dress. And yes, if we could spend all day talking about her fashion, I would.
Well, and I do want to bring up one other, because then a year later she comes out as her alter ego, Joe Calderone.
Oh yeah.
And she dresses up as a man, and she spends the whole night at the awards show as a man. And people again
freaking
were pissed. They were pissed. They were upset. They were like, how dare she? Is she really a man? Or does she want to be a man? Blah blah blah. Who gives a shit? She gave one of the best performances of You and I I've ever seen. There was controversy even in the Lady Gaga community about whether it was too much or not, like her character and whatnot. But it started because she did a photo shoot where she was dressed as, they said, we found this new model named Joe Calderone. And everybody was like, that's Lady Gaga. And they came out a few months later saying it was. It was basically a drag king. She was a drag king for the night.
Nice.
And my favorite part of this whole story is that she even went to the boys' bathroom when she was dressed as him.
Brave.
And she was in character. I mean, she's a theater person. She was in character the whole night. And it was a statement on, transgenderism, gay rights. And it raised the conversations and the arguments that she wanted it to.
Yeah.
And it worked. Also, she performed with Brian May from Queen that night.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You and I. And
I still think about that performance too. Oh my God.
And she also was hot.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 1,000% would smash any iteration of Lady Gaga ever with consent. To backpedal just a little bit, the Fame Monster, to go back and just kind of touch on some of the accolades of it, because I just want to paint a picture of how massive this album and the album with the extra EP, the extended edition, all that stuff was, especially in this time period, because I'm sure there are people that are going to listen at some point who weren't necessarily around or weren't fully cognizant at the moment. They were still babies, which is crazy to think. But you know what? That's
that's part of getting older.
It's part of getting older. Oh my goodness. It said the Fame Monster won the Grammy Award for Best Pop Vocal Album, and Bad Romance won Best Female Pop Vocal Performance and Best Short Form Music Video at the 53rd Annual Grammy Awards. In 2009, Gaga spent a record 150 weeks on the UK singles chart and became the most downloaded female act in a year in the US with 11.1 downloads sold, earning an entry in the Guinness Book of World Records. Worldwide, The Fame and The Fame Monster together have sold more than 15 million copies, and the latter, The Fame Monster, was 2010's second best-selling album. It was an EP. That's nuts. The success allowed Gaga to start her second worldwide concert tour, the Monster Ball Tour, which Amy touched on a little bit ago, and release The Remix, which was her final record with Cherry Tree Records and among the best-selling remix albums of all time. The Monster Ball Tour ran from November 2009 to May 2011 and grossed $227.4 million, making it the highest grossing concert tour for a debut headlining artist. The concerts performed at Madison Square Garden in New York City were filmed for an HBO television special. Lady Gaga presents the Monster Ball Tour at Madison Square Garden. And Gaga also performed songs from her albums at the 2009 Royal Variety Performance, the 52nd Annual Grammy Awards, and the 2010 Brits. This woman was everywhere. And before Michael Jackson's death, Gaga was set to take part in his canceled This Is It concert series at the O2 Arena in the UK. So she was so big that the biggest artist of all time was like, I need to have her around me.
Yes, I want her on my show.
Mm-hmm.
The Monster Ball is my favorite thing. That is what we watched at my birthday party in the pool. Lady Gaga's concerts aren't just a concert. She is putting on, it's almost a musical, but also like the Monster Ball had that drag over the topness, corniness in the script, so it wasn't like a serious musical.
Camp.
It was camp as camp. There we go. Camp as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a story through line through the whole thing. The songs are in an order. She's telling a story about getting to the Monster Ball. Her costume changes. Oh my god. Like, it's just everything about that is my favorite.
Dude. It's so amazing. Even accomplishing all of this and this record-breaking tour. During this era, Gaga ventured into business, collaborating with consumer electronics company Monster Cable Products to create in-ear jewel-encrusted headphones called Heartbeats by Lady Gaga. She also partnered with Polaroid in January 2010 as their creative director and announced a suite of photo capture products called Gray Label. This sparked one of the only moments of Kanye West that I actually enjoy, where he's in an interview and he's talking, he's like, Gaga's the creative director of Polaroid. What the fuck does she know about cameras? It's like one of my favorite. It's so stupid. I don't even know what he's rambling about in that interview, but I just love just that. What the fuck does she know about cameras thing? That I love that. I love it. It's so fucking funny, and it's the only thing he's ever said that's funny. Okay?
But you know what it is that people notice that she's good at branding.
Yes, 100%. She understood the importance of entrepreneurship, because just being a musician is not enough in this day and age. She had to become not just a musician, but an idol, and not just an idol, but an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And we will touch more on that later.
But she is, the other thing I was going to talk about is when I was going through her albums, I noticed that like there would be an album and then there would be 3 or 4 that were like the remix album of this song. The amount of people who remixed her music, that she has whole albums that are the same song remixed over and over and over again. Like, I can't name another artist.
Dude, no. I couldn't either. I mean, maybe Taylor Swift, but
But she doesn't have like the albums out of like, this is remixed version of this song.
Yeah.
Like on Spotify, on her discography, there's like, so there was like Just Dance remixes. There was Bad Romance, the remix album. There was, and I was like, what the fuck? I didn't listen to those. I didn't have time.
She has her creativity, her singular, what's the word? Like her, I guess her singularity was so inspiring that it created huge works of art. I mean, someone's a superstar when like people dress up like you for Halloween. And like there are, again, signature things that people go, oh, you're Lady Gaga for Halloween. Like that's a true like visionary, like rare, like you only see that with some people. Like you can tell when someone's dressed up like Michael Jackson because they're wearing the sparkly glove and the red jacket, or like, again, you know, Freddie Mercury's got like the half microphone stand and he's wearing like the white tank top and the white pants because they're dressed like the Live Aid performance. And then you have Lady Gaga. Or the yellow jacket. Or like literally anything Lady Gaga's done. Anything she's ever worn. You're like, oh my God, that's being Lady Gaga. And it's not impossible. I feel like there are artists these days who do embody that. Like currently Chappell Roan is on the very intense like
incline.
Like direct line to superstardom, and in the same way that like she's dressing like things that people go, I'm gonna dress like that for Halloween. Like that's superstar behavior right there. And same in the sense that like a lot of her her outfits and her performances are honoring other drag queens. They're honoring other like performance artists of times past, and I think that that's wonderful and beautiful. And again, another instance of like, you know, fashion superstardom. And you know,
they have Drag Race at least, I would say maybe even once a season. Maybe not once a season, but they have Lady Gaga runways, like where every drag queen has to dress up as a different Lady Gaga. And now I'm thinking that I want to have a Lady Gaga party where we each have to dress up as a different Lady Gaga.
Oh my God, I don't have the money to be the meat dress version of Lady Gaga, but
I can't do that.
We'll have to pick from a hat. We'll just have to write down different iconic moments. Someone's got to do her Met Gala look, and I'm talking all 4 fits.
Yes.
All 4 camp fits. And it needs to be that 16-minute, you know, thing.
Reveal.
So, yes, 100%. But to move on to like the next era, which we briefly touched on with her drag king era, we're going to start talking about 2011 to 2014, which is encompassing all 3, Born This Way, Art Pop, and Cheek to Cheek. In February 2011, Gaga released Born This Way, the lead single from her studio album of the same name, which everyone knows that song. Is
it one of the most popular? Like, is it her most popular?
That I could look up. I'm not sure.
Because I would feel like it is. It became the gay anthem.
Yes.
Like
1000%.
It is. We have the national anthem. And we have the gay anthem.
Currently, I'm not 100% certain what her numbers are for that song. But, like, that's the national anthem of June. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track. Baby, I was born this way. Dude,
Don't be a drag, just be a queen.
I love that song so much. Oh my gosh. And it came out when I was a freshman in high school, when like I didn't know like what the hell to do with my life or who to be. Like, it's okay to be me.
13 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm aware.
That's okay. I wasn't even in high school when that came out. So,
oh my gosh. Let's see, where even am I? So the song sold more than 1 million copies within 5 days, earning another Guinness World Record for the fastest selling single on iTunes. It debuted atop the Billboard Hot 100, becoming the 1,000th number 1 single in the history of the charts. Its second single, Judas, followed 2 months later, and The Edge of Glory served as the third single, both reaching the top 10 in the US and the UK.
And I was just going to talk about how pissed people were when Born This Way came out. Like, they weren't even shocked at this point, though. Like, the fact that they're still getting pissed about Lady Gaga, and they're like, oh my God, they wrote a song about it being okay to be gay.
I mean, to be fair, politically, for all of the youngins that maybe were still in diapers when this came out, and not in high school like me, this song came out prior to gay marriage being legal in this country still.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like there was a brief, like maybe 8-month period where the state of California legalized gay marriage and a bunch of people got married, and then the Supreme Court ripped it and said, you can't do that. And then all of their stuff got null and void. And it wasn't until 2 years later when the Supreme Court legalized gay marriage. And, it's unbelievable that we're in a place now where that is back on the chopping block once again. But
yeah.
Good Lord.
But yeah, I remember I was like, at this point, you've seen her wear a meat dress. You've seen her dress as a guy. You've called her a transgender. Like, are you shocked?
Yeah.
That she wrote a song. She dresses honoring drag queens. Are you surprised at all? Her fan base is gay as fuck. She stood up for all gay rights. Like,
it's unbelievable how people just Pikachu face over Lady Gaga's work. Like, Judas was a fucking slam. It was so fun and so catchy. People were like, Judas!
Yeah, and then she follows it up with Judas. People were just like, she's Satan!
Unbelievable. Heaven forbid, she takes any creative liberty with her fucking work. Born This Way, the album, was released on May 23rd, 2011, and debuted atop the Billboard 200 with its first week of sales of 1.1 million copies. It sold 8 million copies worldwide in total in that time period and received 3 Grammy nominations, including Gaga's 3rd consecutive nomination for Album of the Year. The only other person I know that does that is fucking Beyonce, who out the gate, Album of the Year nomination almost every time. I fully suspect that for Cowboy Carter, which is a fucking unbelievable album, and not to promote another artist's work, but if you haven't listened to it yet, oh my God.
Yeah. What are you waiting for?
What are you doing? Oh my gosh. Born This Way's following singles were You and I, and Marry the Night, which reached number 6 and 29 in the U.S. respectively. And respectfully, and all the people that are listening, I think you need to go back to that album and re-listen to it because it's a banger after banger after banger after banger. A sophomore album. Oh my God, that's unbelievable.
Which is funny too because this is her sophomore album because the other one was an EP.
It was an EP nominated for Album of the Year, people.
Yeah.
Jeez. Who's doing it like that? Who's doing it like that right now? Nobody?
Nobody.
That's what I thought. The cut Bloody Mary became a resurgent success and was released as a single in 2022, which who else is doing that? I mean, I know that Taylor Swift released Cruel Summer in 2019 and then it became they released it as a single last year. But Bloody Mary became a success after Wednesday came out. And almost 11 years later, it becomes another hit. And I gotta say, it's one of my favorite songs on the album. Now that I'm re-listening to it, I'm like, oh, this is really good. And it was a popular sound on TikTok all this time later. She also embarked on the Born This Way Ball tour in April 2012, which was scheduled to conclude the following March, but ended 1 month earlier when Gaga canceled the remaining dates due to a labral tear of her right hip that required surgery. While refunds for the cancellations were estimated to be worth $25 million, the tour in general grossed $183.9 million globally. In 2011, Gaga also worked with Tony Bennett on a jazz version of The Lady and the Tramp with Elton John on Hello Hello for the animated film Romeo and Juliet, which I did not see.
I did not see that one.
And then she also performed a concert at the Sydney Town Hall in Australia that year to promote Born This Way and to celebrate former U.S. President Bill Clinton's 65th birthday. Goddamn.
And I like you said, I remember when she came out with Tony Bennett and then that leads to their jazz albums and their shows together and I remember that's when grandma starts going, oh, have you heard of
this Lady Gaga?
Yeah. She's really good. And it was a month ago, the news stations you were watching did not think so.
Right, exactly. She puts herself in this curly brown Cher wig and people go, oh, wow. I'll pick that clip up in a little bit.
Oh, she's good.
One thing I wanted to point out, though, is that tear that ended up causing surgery has since been this big sense of grief in her life, and she has chronic, debilitating pain because of it. I've seen a couple documentaries over the last couple of years, like the one that she did for Joanne.
5'2".
Yeah, 5'2". Oh, my God.
I have a lot of notes on that one.
Where, she talks about how that situation has caused her immense pain, and most of the time when you watch Lady Gaga perform, she is in pain. Imagine that you are in debilitating pain, that you need to be in an ice bath, you have masseuses coming every day, you're working on all of this stuff and still killing it like that. It's unbelievable.
The scene in in 5'2" that like haunts me is the one where she's laying on the couch crying and they're just trying to move her body.
Yeah.
And I know that feeling because I have an invisible chronic illness or dysautonomia. And that feeling of like nobody else can necessarily see it, but it's there and you hurt and you feel like you have to push through, but you feel so weak because you can't. And that scene haunts me.
Yeah.
And she acknowledges like, I could not imagine being someone going through this. And I'm so fortunate that I have the money to take care of this.
Yeah. That's something I've also
Like-
thought about too. Like, unbelievable. I mean, the American healthcare system is its own podcast episode for sure. But, you know, it is really heartbreaking to know. Like, I didn't know until that documentary that she was experiencing this immeasurable amount of pain. And so to see her blossom and develop as a performer over all of that time, knowing that, like, she can barely flinch without wanting to burst into tears. It's a monumental feat. She's clearly an athlete, something that people need to take her work ethic as seriously as she does. Really.
And this
Give it
whole
the flowers she
5'2"
deserves.
thing, the documentary, like this is all happening during the time that she's working on American Horror Story. She's working on the Super Bowl show. She's working on A Star Is Born. And like people aren't realizing that like she's going through this kind of pain.
And still pumping out like incredible amounts. The volume of work that she's doing at that time is insane for someone who is dealing with a chronic pain.
And you know, and she says, you know, when she was like, I don't know how people without money deal with this, and I was kind of like, we don't.
Yeah. We're barely functioning. Before we get more into this time period with like Joanne and with A Star Is Born and stuff, I want to circle back to an album that is not given the flowers it deserves, Art Pop, which is such a great album. And I think over the years it's grown on me because I do remember when it came out and I was like, I don't know if I like this. I think at the time I just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Which is stupid and it wasn't even something I needed to get, but it doesn't matter. So development of Art Pop began shortly after the release of Lady Gaga's second studio album, Born This Way. And by the following year, its concepts were, quote, beginning to flourish. As Gaga collaborated with producers Fernando Giarbe and DJ White Shadow, initial recording sessions for Art Pop coincided with Born This Way Ball Tour. So as she's on tour, she's working on 50 songs that are all being sketched out and considered for inclusion, which is nuts.
Yeah.
By May 2012, the project was taking definite form, with co-manager Vincent Herbert promising an insane great record with its craft. Gaga said that she yearned to make audiences have a really good time with Art Pop, engineering the album to mirror a night at the club. When you listen to it, it really flows nicely. It's a really fun pop record with your friends. And she said that she wrote it for her and her friends to pop in from start to finish, she said. Meanwhile, Gaga began presenting tracks to her record company and hoped to reveal the album's working title by September of that year, and a revelation that instead was announced 1 month in advance. The artist later claimed that Art Pop was her first real effort to emulate a phoenix rising from the ashes, reflecting her heightened confidence in writing material for the album compared to her previous effort. Gaga described Art Pop as a, quote, celebration and a poetic musical journey that displayed a lack of maturity and responsibility contrary to the dark anthemic nature of Born This Way. In August 2013, she had an interview with V Magazine that she underwent a cosmetic experience with words. As she examined potential names for the project, pop art was initially favored and taken into consideration, but Gaga questioned the cultural implications of the word because pop art is often assumed, or it's like often used when people talking about like a gift that they'll send their friends and that sort of thing. So she like moved around and like tried different things and found like Art Pop, just flipping it around, had a nice ring to it. With Art Pop, Gaga attempts to inject vulnerability into her work. She also cited Perrier and Sandro Botticelli's The Birth of Venus painting as an influence, which you'll see in the way that she starts to dress herself in tandem with this era of work.
Yeah.
She has these beautiful, huge wigs, and she's wearing like clamshell bras. It's awesome. Gaga admitted to being increasingly self-conscious at the apex of the Born This Way era, and when asked about the decision to refine her image, she responded, "For art pop, I, in the most metaphorical explanation, stood in front of a mirror and I took off the wig and I took off the makeup and I unzipped the outfit and I put a black cap on my head and I covered my body in a black cat suit and I looked in the mirror and I said, okay, now you need to show them you can be brilliant without that." And that's what art pop is all about, because I knew if I wanted to grow, if I really wanted to innovate from the inside, I had to do something that was almost impossible for me. And this is like to go back to, you know, the fashion choices that she's making with wearing these huge wigs, but then also barely wearing anything with it. Like, she's being naked, she's being vulnerable while also still being Lady Gaga.
And that, you know, that goes back to before the podcast, we were just talking about, like, you know, finding confidence and stuff. And sometimes you just have to wear the thing.
Yeah.
Until you feel confident.
Or the lack of the thing.
Yeah. Or the lack of the thing.
It said the album's themes primarily revolve around fame, sex, and empowerment, whilst briefly exploring gender roles and marijuana, which was still not legalized at this time period. References include Greek and Roman mythology and classic jazz and electronic musician Sun Ra. If you've ever watched Sun Ra, you know exactly how interesting that reference actually is. There is a writer from The Atlantic that saw art pop as an attention freak's manifesto and interpreted the record's exploration into carnal desire as a facet of the broader idea of, quote, owning up to one's own desire for attention. London Evening Standard's our main journalist, John, suggested that the songs such as Do What You Want and Dope highlighted Gaga's curiously submissive tendencies as a lyricist. And somebody from Billboard commented that art pop naturally abides to her far-reaching ambition to rethink the pop album as an entity, while USA Today observed the lyrics to foretell the exploits of an empowered, sexy siren who wrestles with fame, something he expected from Gaga. While the New York Times argued that with art pop, Gaga reasserted her need for the love of her audience and announced her new pivot to align herself with the visual art world.
And that's, you know, I did write that about her, is that, and there is a difference between like the Monster Ball and then like this period that starts, because it's more of I called it like a fine art. Yeah. Everything she does is more like that art that you look at it and you go, huh, what does this mean? Yeah. And so there's so much speculation about what she means by it, what she does by it, but I think that you're more just supposed to stand back and appreciate that she does it.
I 100% agree. I think that this album is something that's really grown on me over time and something that I really embrace, that I think a lot of people really like changed their mind about over the years. I know that like the biggest single off of art pop was Applause, and I know for the longest time it was not my favorite song, but David's always really loved it.
I had mixed feelings about it. I was like, it's okay. I feel like she's not singing as much as but now I love it.
Oh yeah, like
it's one of those songs that had to grow on me.
G-U-Y. I love that. I mean, it is definitely an album that is something that like I think it has to find you at the right time, and maybe at the time when it came out, I was still young. I didn't really get it, and I've had a lot of culture and experience now. I think I'm around the age, maybe a little older than she was when she made it. So like, I feel like I'm starting to understand some of those references. Yeah. And I'm starting to like understand some of the choices that she made. Not that it's really up for me to understand it or interpret anyway, because if I didn't get it then, it wasn't for me. Yep. You know? I just wanted to briefly touch on some of her jazz work. I know that shortly after this album came out, she started working on Cheek to Cheek with Tony Bennett. And although the project was in development and discussions, and they were taking place as early as September of 2012, the recording did not start until the spring of 2013, being delayed by Gaga's hip surgery and cancellation of her Born This Way ball tour. The recording took place over a year in New York City and featured jazz musicians associated with both artists. Cheek to Cheek received generally favorable reviews. The Guardian said that, you know, Gaga's vocals were, I mean, she praised Gaga's vocals And the Chicago Tribune wrote that Cheek to Cheek served up the real thing, start to finish. A lot of people, this is when they started to take her really seriously as a vocalist. She started out as a jazz musician. She said that, you know, if like Tony Bennett saw her as a real jazz musician, then she was a real jazz musician. That's where her roots are.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. I mean, he was the king of jazz, and rest in peace to him. I listened to it. I'm a huge fan of jazz as a whole, and I think that she did such a great job. She has such a lovely timbre to her voice, and I think it really suits her. And they had such a chemistry that I don't think that a lot of duos have had, and it really paid homage to a time period from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s when like you'd see like two different artists do like a whole collaborative album together of jazz standards.
Yeah.
It's so interesting the way that she can continuously reinvent herself. This album came out after art pop. So that whole era of art pop, we're seeing her show up, you know, like I said, in like ginormous wigs, looking like the Birth of Venus, having those kinds of senses of imagery, and then completely doing a 180, stripping all of that. And she's back to having brown hair, and she has, she's wearing these like nice, beautiful outfits, and she looks a lot like Cher from the 70s. And like, there's homages to different eras of it's a different kind of classy.
And it's a different kind of classy, and it's very, not old fashioned, but something easier to swallow for
the people that need a second.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, so the duo went and did a concert special at the same time for Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga Cheek to Cheek Live, and embarked on the Cheek to Cheek tour from December 2014 to August of 2015. This album also was Lady Gaga's third consecutive #1 album on the Billboard Top 100. The record was Gaga's third consecutive #1 album on the Billboard 200 and won a Grammy Award for Best Traditional Pop Vocal Album. So this is when we start to get into some of the stuff we touched on a little bit earlier. From 2015 to 2017, we're going to start talking about, you know, some of her acting, and also Joanne, which I think is a great album.
It is.
It's a great pivot where that leads into A Star Is Born, which is where we really get to see Lady Gaga shine as that actor that we talked about a little earlier. She did a performance at the 87th Academy Awards where she sang a medley of songs from The Sound of Music in a tribute to Julie Andrews, and it's considered one of her best performances by Billboard. It triggered more than 214,000 interactions per minute globally on Facebook that day. And she then later wrote a song with Diane Warren, co-wrote the song called Till It Happens to You for the documentary The Hunting Ground, which earned them the Satellite Award for Best Original Song and her first Academy Award nomination in the same category. She also won Billboard's Woman of the Year and Contemporary Icon Award at the 2015 Annual Songwriter Hall of Fame Awards. So she was busy, even though she was just freshly off her tour with Tony Bennett. She's making a splash. And only just a few years later, spoiler alert, she'd win an Academy Award for Best Original Song, which is so cool. Oh my gosh. This is when she starts to work on some of her acting stuff. She takes a break from making music to start in American Horror Story Hotel. And she wins Best Actress in a Miniseries or Television Film at the Golden Globes. I, again, did not watch it because I'm so terrified.
I feel like I remember videos of it going around and people talking about how like people were upset that she won. But I don't remember too much. But like now that I've watched it, I'm like, no, she deserved it. She did a very good job portraying that character.
She's a fantastic actress, and I think that we're only seeing the very beginning.
She's about to come out with that Joker Harley Quinn one, and I'm really excited about that.
I think that she's going to do an absolutely unbelievable job. Jumping off of that point, people are starting to really take her seriously as a musician, as an actress, as a creative person. She is far surpassed her music, and now she's just synonymous with culture, like Lady Gaga. When I think of Lady Gaga at this point in my life, I'm not thinking Lady Gaga the musician, or Lady Gaga the actress, or Lady Gaga the fashion icon. It's just Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
she is beyond the borders of the art that she's created, which very few have been able to get to. In February of 2016, Gaga sang the U.S. national anthem at Super Bowl 50 and partnered with Intel and Nile Rodgers for a tribute performance to the late David Bowie at the 58th Annual Grammy Awards. She also sang Till It Happens to You, the song she was nominated for an Academy Award at the 88th Academy Awards, where she was introduced by Joe Biden, who later was president of the United States, and was accompanied on stage by 50 people who had suffered from sexual assault. This song, if you did not know, was about that, and she starts to open up a little bit more about the sexual assault that caused her to have tremendous PTSD. And this was at the beginning of her career when she was like 19 years old. So the ability to put herself out there and be vulnerable in that way and give space to 50 other women who have experienced that same thing is very, very amazing. Yeah. It's such an honor. And then she was honored that April with the Artist Award at the Jane Orser Education Awards by the Grammy Museum. I mean, at this point, she is in the stratosphere. She's
she's already reached superstardom.
Mm-hmm. She also goes on to then play a character in American Horror Story Roanoke, which we talked about. Another thing I did not watch because
that one was creepy as fuck. But she played a witch.
Ooh.
And she did a very good job at it, but she was only in one episode.
Ooh, so. She said that her role in the 5th season, which was American Horror Story Hotel, it ultimately influenced her future music, prompting her to feature the, quote, the art of darkness. In September of 2016, she released her 5th studio album's lead single, Perfect Illusion, which I really love. I really love that song. Which topped the charts in France and reached number 15 in the U.S. The album, titled Joanne, was named after Gaga's late aunt, who was an inspiration for the music. It was released on October 21st, 2016, and became Gaga's 4th #1 album on the Billboard 200, making her the first woman to reach the U.S. charts summit 4 times in the 2010s. And I think they specify the 2010s because Beyonce had already hit it just in general. The album's second single, Million Reasons, which I also love very much, followed the next month and reached number 4 in the U.S. She later released a piano version of the album's title track in 2018, which won a Grammy for Best Pop Solo Performance. To promote the album, Gaga embarked on a 3-date dive bar tour, which is super cool. And at this point, she's, filming footage for her documentary 5'2", and you get to really see, she starts learning guitar, and she, just starts playing guitar in front of people, which, oh my God. I've been on an on-again, off-again relationship with guitar for, 15 years, and I will never play in front of another person.
Yeah, that is for me in my bedroom. I don't think I'll ever play in front of someone.
I think my dogs know what I sound like, and we're going to leave it at that because they cannot speak about my horrors to the strings. After this, she then performs as the headlining act of the Super Bowl on February 5th, 2017, and her performance featured a group of hundreds of lighted drones forming various shapes in the sky above Houston's NRG Stadium, the first time robotic aircraft appeared in a Super Bowl program. So breaking records even there. It attracted 117.5 million viewers in the United States, exceeding the game's 111.3 million viewers, and making it the 3rd most watched Super Bowl halftime show at the time. So I'm not sure of all time, but definitely at that time.
I specifically remember when it started, and she comes down from the ceiling of the...
She fucking jumps like a little critter.
Yeah. Comes down to the stage from, the top of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the fuck?
It's actually nuts. She won she got an Emmy nomination for that performance. It was so good. They were like, we gotta give you an award for that. Jesus Christ. She then, in April, 2 months later, headlines Coachella, which is actually nuts. She released a standalone single called The Cure, which reached the top 10 in Australia. And 4 months later, Gaga began the Joanne World Tour, which she announced after the Super Bowl halftime show. Gaga's creation of Joanne and preparation for her halftime show performance were featured in the documentary Gaga 5'2", which I believe is on Netflix right now.
It's on Netflix. I watched it. It's really, really good. It's a good watch. Just because you kind of get a look into her in real life too. Some of the moments that really stood out to me was she's in the studio and there's fans waiting outside.
Yeah.
And her makeup artist puts makeup on her while she's in the studio talking about things because she's so she doesn't want to let her fans down.
Yeah.
That she's not, like, there were several times where she's like, do you think they're going to be let down that I'm not in some extravagant couture piece?
That's what I loved about the Joanne era was
Yeah.
that, like, that wasn't what that was about. It was about the music. It was, like, exploring this, like, Americana side of herself.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, again, it's still a character because she's embodying the character of her late aunt. But, like, it kind of, in a way, it was like her first, like, it was like her first dip into making her fans see her for Stephanie and not for Lady Gaga. Where, like, that whole tour, like, we talk about fashion. She's wearing a pink cowboy hat, white t-shirt, like blue skinny jeans, and some boots. And that's the extent of it. And, like, her little mini tattoos are all on display. But, like, her her makeup is not intense. It's just like, it's like the your skin but better look. I mean, she's very stripped back, very vulnerable for her. Most people would be like, wow, that's you dressing up on a Friday night to go to the Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
But
for Lady Gaga, who dresses like in drag inspired.
Yes. It was a real choice, and I think it was the bedrock of her being able to come out with things like House of Gaga, or House Labs specifically, which is a makeup brand that comes out. And honestly, if you haven't tried House Labs, that makeup
is fantastic.
Dude.
That's when Leo and I first started dating. Because he worked like a party or something for them.
Oh, dang.
And so he had all this makeup, and he was like, I have all this. Do you like it? Do you want it? And I'm like, I mean, yes, but also I can help you sell some of this. And I remember I hit you girls up, and I have all these messages from when we first started dating that's just like, I sold some more of the makeup. Here's your money on Venmo. Here's more makeup. Like, because Steven, I remember we were at Janelle's house, and Steven like tried all of them on his arm, and he's all like, oh my God.
So beautiful. Those liquid shadows, her base foundation makeup. Oh my God. But like being able to see Gaga stripped away from the drag inspired looks that you were talking about, like really laid a great base for people to go, oh my God, like finally open their fucking eyes and see how gorgeous this woman was, which if you didn't see it beforehand, you're a loser. But like, not to get aggressive, but you kind of suck. Anyway,
fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. And it also really gave us like almost like a taste of what was to come with A Star Is Born.
Yes.
Oh
like
my
I feel like A
God.
Million Reasons was a lead-in into her music for A Star Is Born.
I think it was heavily inspired by that. And I know that like we all like to make fun of the press tour for A Star Is Born, where she's like, there was 99 people in a room that didn't believe in you. We just needed one. And anyway, if you're chronically online, you know what the fuck I'm talking about right now. Otherwise, I sound like a crazy person. But to like pivot into A Star Is Born, oh my God, that was my entire personality for the year of 2018, or the end of the year of 2018, leading into 2019. Like I have never watched a movie. Well, that's not true, but like I haven't watched a movie in a really long time that was like, I can only listen to this music. I have no space for anything else.
Everybody was obsessed with watching her and Bradley Cooper sing Shallow. And you know, of course, speculations like, oh, are they together? Are they not together? Their chemistry was great.
Off the charts.
Nobody's gonna be surprised by this, but I sobbed watching that movie in theaters.
My God, that was one of those movies where like there's only been a few in my life that have made me like in a public theater cry so hard. I had to like bite my sweater so I didn't like
like you're doing the like
sob. Dude, literally like I just would be like it's oh my God, it still gets me.
That ending song, I'll always remember us this way.
Oh my God.
I purposely did not watch that because I'm already going through enough right now.
Yes, and that is understandable.
I did not need to watch that right now.
Just to pull, so she wrote this album with her collaborator from Joanne, Mark Ronson, who famously has worked with like everybody. But
and also their relationship, you see it in the 5'2", so sweet.
She literally dings his car, and he's like, "It's okay." Like she was learning how to drive, and she, fucked up his car, and he was like, "That's fine, whatever." I mean, like to be fair, he has a ton of money; he could just pay for it to get it fixed. But like, if we're talking about like specifically like going through the soundtrack of A Star Is Born, unbelievable work. This is just like an out of the park. Shallow, I mean, probably the biggest song of the year, if not one of the bigger songs of the 2010s in general.
We still sing it and people stop every time we sing it.
Yeah, it's a song that makes people just like their heart soar. Always Remember Us This Way. I remember that scene where she's playing it on the crowd. Oh my God. And then the song at the very end that you were talking about, I'll Never Love Again.
Yeah.
Oh, I also Is That All Right, which they just oh my God, dude. Anyway, if you're in the middle of still listening to us ramble on this late, please after this go listen to that soundtrack. It's fucking unbelievable. Yes. It's so good. And it was so good that she was not only nominated for, best soundtrack or best song at the Academy Awards that year, but she was also nominated for best actress. Mm-hmm. And she didn't end up winning best actress. Whatever. She'll be back. It's fine. We know it's going to happen eventually. But it was such a beautiful performance where they got to perform Shallow, where they both walk up to the piano, her and Bradley, and then they sit together and oh my God.
The chemistry, it's just, you can't help but see that chemistry and be like, do you?
Do you love each other, please? But I guess Bradley Cooper approached Gaga after seeing her perform at a cancer research fundraiser, and he was already an admirer of her. But after seeing her in that, he was like, "Do you want to be in my movie?" And I guess I've heard through the grapevine that originally he was considering Beyonce.
Oh,
which also would have been interesting, but we wouldn't have been getting the music that we ended up getting. And I think it was exactly the pair that needed to be paired together.
I think it's what needed to be.
It was nuts. This movie premiered at the 2018 Venice Film Festival and was released worldwide in October of 2018. Gaga's performance was acclaimed by film critics, with Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian labeling the film outrageously watchable. Which I agree.
Yes.
And stating that Gaga's ability to be part ordinary person, part extraterrestrial celebrity empress functions at the highest level. Because the whole point of it is that she's supposed to be really talented, but people overlook her because she looks so plain and ordinary. In what part of that movie does she look plain and ordinary? She looks fucking beautiful the whole time. Oh my God. Except I gotta be honest, I gotta speak my truth. I don't like the red hair on her. I gotta speak my truth, okay? And you know what? It is what it is.
It's fine.
But yeah, for the role, Gaga won the National Board of Review and Critics' Choice Awards for Best Actress. So she did win a lot of awards for that, in addition to receiving nominations for the Academy Award, Golden Globe Award, Screen Actors Guild Award, and the BAFTA Award for Best Actress, which is nuts. Gaga and Cooper co-wrote and produced most of the songs on the soundtrack for A Star Is Born, which she insisted they perform live in the film. Its lead single, Shallow, performed by the two, was released on September 27, 2018, before the movie came out, and topped the charts in various countries, including Australia, the UK, and the US. The soundtrack contains 34 tracks, including 17 original songs, and received generally positive reviews. Mark Kennedy of the Washington Post called it a 5-star marvel. And Ben Beaumont Thomas of The Guardian termed it an instant classic full of Gaga's emotional might. Commercially, the soundtrack debuted at #1 in the U.S.
As it should have.
Yeah, making Gaga the first woman with 5 U.S. #1 albums in the 2010s. Again, that's only because Beyonce did it throughout her. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
And breaking her tie with Taylor Swift as the most for any female artist this decade in the 2010s. Swift tied with her again in 2019, but it additionally topped the charts in Australia, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, Switzerland, and the UK. And as of June 2019, the soundtrack has sold over 6 million copies. It won Gaga 4 Grammy Awards, Best Compilation Soundtrack for Visual Media, Best Pop Duo Group Performance, Best Song Written for Visual Media for Shallow, as well as the latter category for I'll Never Love Again, and the BAFTA Award for Best Film Music. Honestly, it is a marvel. It is a feat. It's exactly what that one guy said about it being outrageously fucking good. It's nuts. I could not get enough of it. It's all I wanted to sing. It's all I wanted to listen to.
The music is beautiful. The way her vocals just shine on that.
And to even go back to not just like the way her vocals just soared. But like her fashion choices during that award season were absolutely unbelievable. I will I'll always think about even like her. Like we talk about some of like her choices early in her career. Like we talk about the meat dress and that sort of thing. But even something that people might consider plain, because she tended to wear a lot of black dresses during that award season. But that beautiful black dress that she wore for the Oscars that year, and that big yellow jeweled necklace, her hair was in a beautiful knot. She also, like, I think at one of the award shows, I don't remember, she had this like beautiful big blue dress. Like, she was dressed like a Hollywood starlet. Like,
she was stunning. And this is a A Star Is Born has been done. Is it a couple times before this? This is the third time it's been done.
I think it was the third time. Yeah, the first time, the first time I don't remember who was was it Judy Garland?
Might have been. I'm looking it up right now. But this is the third time it's been done, and she's still. It was her own.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
The second time I know was with Barbara Streisand, who people tend to admit they both look a little alike. And I love the big song from that movie was Evergreen, and that's also a beautiful song, but it's not Shallow, dude.
No, the fact that the music was different, it's a different, they made it a different movie. Like, it's not the same movie that you're watching over and over again. And yeah, her soundtrack is just, it's vulnerable, it's beautiful, it's her vocals are perfectly fit in those songs, and it's ridiculous. It's just the fact that she's good at all of that. I mean, she went to theater school. It shouldn't be surprising, but
and I'm sure leading up to this she got acting lessons and other stuff too, but like, I mean, it really shows how dedicated she is, how wonderful she is. I mean, I couldn't really say enough about it.
And I feel like this is her setting up a career for the rest of her life.
100%.
Because she's not always going to be that Lady Gaga that we were first introduced to. She's going to evolve. She's going to be different things. And she's set that up now so nicely with like, there's the queer icon Lady Gaga that first came out, and then there's the jazz Lady Gaga, and then there's this Lady Gaga who's more stripped back and more... Yeah.
And then the entrepreneur Lady Gaga, who owns one of the biggest makeup brands in the world right now.
Actress Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga is a state of mind, really. Her sixth studio album, Chromatica, was released on May 29th, 2020 to positive reviews. Obviously, I don't really have to paint a picture for all of you. Where were we all in May of 2020? On lockdown for the COVID-19 pandemic. It debuted atop the U.S. charts, becoming her sixth consecutive #1 album in the country, and reached the top spot in more than a dozen other territories, including Australia, Canada, France, Italy, and the U.K. Chromatica was preceded by two singles, Stupid Love and Rain on Me with Ariana Grande in May. The latter won Best Pop Duo Group Performance at the 63rd Annual Grammy Awards and debuted at #1 in the U.S., making Gaga the third person to top the country's charts in the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s. So she is a, multi-decade chart-topping artist.
Yeah.
The only person who's been able to do it in 5 decades, just a little trivia for you guys, is Kylie Minogue.
Oh.
Yeah. She reached that feat with Padam Padam. Padam Padam. That's for you gays. I love you so much. Anyway. At the 2020 music video or MTV Music Video Awards, Gaga won 5 awards, including the inaugural Tricon Award, recognizing artists' accomplishments in different areas of the entertainment industry. Because she's everywhere.
Yeah. And she's a fucking icon.
Since then, she's done unbelievable amount of work. She did like the main song for Top Gun Maverick. She also, I think, won a couple of awards for that as well. The Chromatica Ball Stadium Tour, which was unbelievable. It grossed $112.4 million from 834,000 tickets sold throughout 20 dates, and produced an HBO concert special titled Gaga Chromatica Ball, which I think just came out.
It just came out like this month, I believe. And I did watch it. And I would say that it's very, like, it's like more of a fine art.
Yeah.
I feel like Chromatica is in general. I enjoy Stupid Love and I enjoy Rain on Me. Those were very good picks for the singles.
I agree.
The album as a whole, maybe it'll be one of the ones I come back to years from now and I appreciate it more.
Art Pop was a slow grow for me, and I think
Yeah.
that Chromatica will be the same. But I think at this point, I mean, we've only again scratched the absolute surface of Lady Gaga's career. It would take like 8 episodes to get through like the amount of attention it deserves to get for each facet of her life, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Yeah. I would love to see her in a musical.
Love to see her in a musical. I would love to see her get the EGOT. I think that she has she's 3 down, 1 to go. So get on Broadway, girl. People need to call when you have time, when you have the space. If you have the time, if you have the space. Obviously, don't push your body. But again, if you're ever watching this Lady Gaga, I would definitely see you in anything. In anything.
I would love to see her in a musical. But anyway, we're going to take one more short break to hear from another one of our Bass Blown Entertainment podcasts. And then we will be right back with our finishing favorites. Do-do-do.
When it comes to making the goings-on of the world entertaining, we got you covered. The Chit Show is a news, pop culture, geek culture, and music podcast hosted by none other than Danny, a.k.a. Danko, and me, Leo, a.k.a. DJ Brute. Tune in as we cover all sorts of topics with a very opinionated and wild twist. The Chit Show Podcast, where chit-chat and shit shows come together for your entertainment. Tune in on your favorite streaming platforms with new episodes dropping every other Monday. Again, that's The Chit Show, a Bass Blown Entertainment podcast.
All right. So, if you had to pick a favorite album, what would it be?
Oh boy, I feel like I always pick like the most obvious choice for everything, but I gotta be honest, The Fame is my favorite album of hers.
Mine too.
There are no skips on that album, and it's been a favorite of mine since I was a kid,
Even
and it still is.
Boys, boys, boys.
Yeah. Oh, I fucking love that song. Oh my god. So I guess for you, what would be your favorite album of hers?
That one.
Yep.
The Fame. It's
Exactly.
The Fame, and that's like even the Monster Ball. Most of that was The Fame. A little bit of the next 2 albums, but that's my jam.
I can't deny it. It is, I'm not saying it's her best work, not even objectively or not objectively. It's just my favorite.
Yeah.
And if your favorite is something different, that's also very valid.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of them that would be up there. I also feel like, song-wise, like Born This Way, any of her stuff from A Star Is Born, fantastic. But The Fame is just...
It's
it's
classic,
The
dude. That's why it's a classic. What is your favorite song from The Fame?
Oh, shoot. Well, see,
I know.
this is what's funny, is my favorite song from Lady Gaga, period, is not from The Fame.
Interesting.
My favorite song is You and I. That's my favorite Lady Gaga song. But if I had to pick one from The Fame... Oh, God, I don't know.
I know. I'm like looking through the list of songs and I genuinely, I know all of them so well. I will definitely say I think her best song, in my very opinionated opinion, is Paparazzi off that album. I think that's the best song off the album.
Yeah. I was going to say Poker Face would maybe be mine off the album.
There's a couple of renditions of Paparazzi that she's done that I'm obsessed with. Obviously, her performance where she's like suspended in the air and like bleeding. Amazing. I think my personal favorite song of that album definitely changes. When I was younger, it was Brown Eyes. I fucking loved that song. And now I would say Boys, Boy, Boys is just so fun. It's just so fun. Paper Gangster is also good. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Oh
There's
my god.
no skips on it. There's really...
Starstruck too. Oh, so starstruck. Baby, could you blow my heart up? But yeah, that's gonna be my choice.
Okay. Is that your favorite song overall too?
No.
No.
I would say, fuck. What is my favorite Lady Gaga song? I don't know. It changes. I will. I don't know. I'm gonna need a second to think about it. Okay. So the Fame Monster, which is just the deluxe version or the EP or extra album of this. What is your favorite song off of that one? Actually, no. Okay, I figured it out. My favorite song off of this, of the Fame Monster, is Speechless, and that's also my favorite Lady Gaga song.
Okay.
Yeah. I love that song. Speechless is, oh my God, so good. And it feels very like Amy Winehouse.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The lyricism on that song is so good. But anyway, yes. Such a good album, too. A Star Is Born. I'm gonna talk about it because I want to talk about it. And every time I listen to this album, something different happens and some different emotion is evoked for me. I always remember Us This Way.
I think that's my favorite.
I will say, I think the Is That All Right? It's like a little part. It's like not even a full thing, but I love Is That All Right? It sounds so good. And also the extended version of I'll Never Love Again makes me want to fucking throw up. From emotion. My heart wants to fucking leap out of my chest. Unbelievable. For Chromatica, I'm going to go with like...
It's either Stupid Love or Rain on Me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to say Rain on Me.
I want your stupid love. I mean, it's a bop. It's a bop. When they had her on Fortnite, I was like, I have to go through the path to get the Stupid Love. Yeah. So, like, even though, like, that album isn't my favorite, I still am obsessed with some of the songs on there. So.
Yeah, and you know what? That album has a very specific look, too. It has a very cyborg look to it. Yeah. She has the high ponytail. She has the pink suit. Like, what she's wearing in her Fortnite skin.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to be relatively iconic to have a Fortnite skin. Obviously, people instantly go, that's Lady Gaga.
Yeah. I also had to play through to get the purple one because I wanted the purple one.
Yeah.
Really,
I feel
really
that.
bad. I focused on it. I was like, Mother has arrived to Fortnite.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I will pay her honor and play these games religiously until I have... This sounds so creepy. Until I have her skin.
I must collect her skin. Well, I did hear that she is... I heard the whispers of a new album is coming out at some point. I don't know if that's 100% true. I'm looking forward to it. I will be seated. I will be there.
Yes.
And I will be watching every, movie that she ever comes out with after that and all that
I'm
stuff.
looking forward to her Joker and Harley Quinn one. That's going to be... I think she's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it will be iconic.
Yes.
So...
All right. So next time... Who are we talking about, Kasey?
We're going to be talking about Doja Cat.
Woo woo!
Woo, woo, woo.
I just automatically go to her cow song.
Moo.
Yes.
So, thank you guys for listening to me ramble like crazy for almost 2 hours about Lady Gaga.
Yeah. I mean, she deserves it.
She does. She does deserve it.
And it's Pride Month. So if you didn't listen till the end, homophobe.
Exactly. Boo.
All right. We will talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
If you're looking for fun events, awesome music, and enjoyable podcasts, then look no further. The Basebone Entertainment family has you covered. With so many talented people in our community, it was only right that we not only bring you events, but all sorts of awesome entertainment. Follow Basebone on social media or join our Discord community to stay updated and engaged in everything. That is at Baseblown on social media and discord.gg/Baseblown for our Discord. Basebone Entertainment, bringing you more than just bass in your face.